You want a basic low-risk nitrous plate for an extra 200 horsepower? Well, we're gonna show you the difference between a spray bar plate and perimeter discharge. I love nitrous oxide. You touch a button, you get tons and tons of horsepower. I've done it forever with carburetors and plate systems, and man, it's great. But I've always wondered, what is the difference between a carburetor nitrous injection plate that has the spray bars on it and one that is perimeter injection? It sprays it all around the edges. So that's what we're gonna find out here. Before I get into that, let me just touch you up on how nitrous works. In a carbureted application, what we're gonna do is bolt a plate underneath the carburetor, and it's either got that perimeter discharge or the tubes in it, the spray bars, and what it's gonna do is inject extra gasoline into the engine. Now, to burn that extra gasoline, we're also gonna add nitrous oxide. Nitrous is stored in your container bottle as a liquid. It discharges through that orifice and becomes a gas. Nitrous goes into the combustion chamber and it releases oxygen. Oxygen allows you to burn that extra fuel. Burning that extra fuel gives you more horsepower. The other way it gives you more power is by chilling that intake charge like crazy. Here's how we do it. That plate is fed by a couple of nitrous solenoids. They're an electric on-off switch. So you've got nitrous oxide going in the nitrous oxide solenoid, and on the other side, you've got fuel between 5 and 6 PSI going into the fuel side. And that's as simple as it is. All you do to install it is bolt that plate in there, throw some wiring on it, chuck a bottle in the trunk, and boom. You probably also need a nitrous bottle heater. And what we're doing here is a 200 horsepower shot. All of that stuff I told you about, extra fuel and cooling and everything, you just touch a button, you get 200 horsepower. That's adjustable based on jets that you can put on each end of the plate. Now, the thing that gets different here is how we are introducing the fuel and the nitrous into the engine. First, there's the good old spray bar system. This one happens to be from NOS. The way it works is it has a top bar, which is just a tube here with holes drilled in it, and that one is carrying the nitrous. Then you've got the bottom bar, and that one is carrying the gasoline. Now, the way it works is that the fuel is injected at this angle, and then the nitrous is injected on top of the fuel at this angle. So the fuel squirts out at 5 or 6, 7 PSI, low pressure, and the nitrous is at about 900 PSI. So it intersects those two so that it disperses the fuel into the nitrous oxide into the intake manifold. And in this particular spray bar plate, there are holes just for each cylinder. There's 8 fuel and 8 nitrous. You can buy other designs that have a whole lot different thing, like a big shot plate has a bunch more spray holes in it and things like that. So that's one tactic to get the fuel into your engine and the nitrous oxide. This is the one that I've used forever. It's all I've ever used, to be honest. Then there's this style right here, which is a perimeter discharge. Now, it also has that shear of the fuel like I was describing on the 2 different holes on the spray bar, but the holes are all around the edge of the plate. It's actually 2 pieces here, and when the nitrous comes in, it travels in a channel all the way around, as does the fuel, and it sprays out of holes all the way around the edge. This is something that was popularized by Zex nitrous oxide, and I've used them in the old days when they first came out, just sort of for testing. I've never done an A/B test between the 2 plates. And what we're gonna do here is not really look for which one makes more power. I'm curious which one is more tunable and how it reacts to this particular intake manifold. Now, the interesting thing is that Zex and NOS supply different jets for different horsepower levels, meaning a jet that goes into a nitrous plate is sort of like a carburetor jet. It has a metered orifice drilled in the thing, and you might see a 73 and a 64 jet as the tune-up for the Zex plate. That would be bigger on the nitrous and smaller on the fuel. The NOS tune-ups on the newer stuff are staggered like that, but on the older plates like this one, they would recommend like a 74 and a 74, the same size on both one, and we know that that runs a little bit rich. It's a little bit of an antiquated tuning setup. What I wanted to do here is run both plates with exactly the same jetting so that we could compare them equally. And so what Steve Brule did is modified the Zex plate to use NOS jets, which by the way, I would always do because they're more common, they're easier to come by at a typical speed shop. The Zex jets and the Holley jets are different. And those jets that we're going to be using, at least initially, are going to be a number 73 on the nitrous side and 65 on the fuel, with about 6.5 PSI of fuel pressure. So that's what we're gonna do. And as we spray the nitrous in each setup, we're gonna be looking, of course, at power, but also the tune-up. We're gonna look at air-fuel ratio globally and also cylinder to cylinder to see which plate might have the air and fuel distributed, and nitrous, better in the intake manifold. It's gonna be interesting. Here's the engine that we're going to test it on. This is my own 408 cubic inch LS stroker setup. Obviously, it's a General Motors LS series engine. The bottom end started life as a 6-liter iron block. It's been stroked out to 408 cubic inches. It's all forged bottom end. It's got large ring end gaps for nitrous oxide. That's something that you should really, really do if you're building an engine and you know you're gonna spray it. Even at a 200 horsepower increase with the nitrous, you don't want the ends of the piston rings to butt from heat. It just causes all kinds of problems. So this is set up for that. It's also very much a tame, street drivable engine. The compression ratio is only 9.3 to 1. That's really low. And the reason is I'd initially built it for boost, but the thing is that also makes it just that extra level of safe on nitrous oxide. So about 2 points less compression than I would actually build it for if I was just gonna run the thing around without nitrous or without boost. The camshaft is also very, very small. It's a hydraulic roller, of course. The duration on the intake side is 225 at 50 thousandths tappet lift. The cylinder heads on this thing are 259cc inlet runner. They're from Blueprint Engines. And we're gonna run a carburetor up top this time. It is on a General Motors single plane intake manifold. And I point out single plane mostly to tell you that common knowledge would say if you're gonna run plate underneath a carburetor with nitrous oxide, you want a single plane. In truth, we've tried it on dual planes in past episodes of Engine Masters and actually improved cylinder to cylinder distribution on the dual plane. But the results that we're gonna see here with these two plates might be different if you were dealing with a dual plane. In fact, they might be different on different single planes, but it's still gonna give us some information on what could happen. Now, of course, I'm running it with a carburetor, and it is a Holley XP 750 CFM. Because the LS engine doesn't have a distributor, we're gonna control that with an MSD box to pull timing out when we're on nitrous. So there you go. I'm gonna sit down with the Steves, and we're gonna run my glorious little LS motor on a 200 shot of nitrous oxide with 2 different plates. Here's the thing. This LS makes 540 horsepower. What's your rule? 30%?
30, 35, that's a safe number.
30% is 162 horsepower gain. His rule is that it is safe to use nitrous oxide up to a 30% gain on the engine's base horsepower, 35.
Yeah, like on a 500 horse deal like that, or something, I'd go up to 175. I wouldn't really want to go anything past that.
Yeah.
So I think the jets we chose are kind of in that area.
We're gonna run 72 nitrous jet on both of these things.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it'll be pretty good. We're gonna fire it up now and run the thing without the nitrous and just get ourselves a baseline, and then we'll start to rip on the gas.
Yeah.
Go?
Go.
Go.
Thank you.
Bye.
You know, it's interesting to look at our power curve here because we've run this engine a bunch, including yesterday for a different episode, and it made 500 pound-feet and 545 horsepower. And now our power numbers are 516 pound-feet of torque, and it's making 560 horsepower. The only differences are we added 2 nitrous plates, so that's a 1-inch stack, right?
Yeah, that's basically a 1-inch stack because we've got a plate that is 1 inch. This is a 1/2-inch thick nitrous plate, so we put a 1/2-inch phenolic on top of it. It's just so everything was the same for all the plates.
So it's just like running a open carb spacer, and it made that much difference. Anyway, pretty good baseline power. What are we gonna do first? We're running the NOS, just regular bar plate.
Single old bar.
Yep. And you've got the 72 jet on the nitrous side. Yes. And what's on the fuel side for a jet?
We've learned from experience that it takes a smaller fuel jet than nitrous jet. So what we have in it now is a 7264 is where we're gonna start. I think that'll give us a pretty good close call. We can adjust fuel pressure, maybe even a thou jet from around there, but we want to just make it where the tune-up's good and we can just run it from plate to plate.
Yeah. You're gonna learn something, Dulcich.
Oh, yeah.
We've gone through all our safety checks before we run nitrous. We've set the flowing fuel pressure. We've made sure that the solenoids work. We've made sure that the ignition timing is retarding. We've opened the bottle with the engine running just to make sure that the nitrous isn't leaking through the engine, through the solenoid. Everything is perfect. The first one that we're going to run is the NOS conventional plate, just with 2 spray bars in it. After that, we'll get to the perimeter plate and then doing some stuff with the crosshair. But right now, standard cruising model NOS plate with a 72 nitrous jet. We'll see the power and we'll see our tune-up. I know the first thing that you want to know is the power that we just made with nitrous oxide. It is 774.2 horsepower. I'm good with 775 on that. And the torque is 724. The thing is, those numbers really depend sort of on where you hit the button, especially the torque. It's going to change pretty radically if you stab it, at 4,000 or if you stab it at 5,000. The thing is, we're not just looking for horsepower in this episode because, come on, we know that nitrous oxide makes horsepower, and if you don't like your number, you just put in a bigger jet. That's it. What we're looking at is the tune-up. So where do you want to start sort of analyzing that?
Well, I know that we could put more timing in it to make more power. There's a few things we could do, but where we started specifically for a reason was to start to look at cylinder-to-cylinder stuff. And so I think that's probably what we should look at next.
I agree.
Yeah. This is a chart of all the different cylinders. The thing is, if you look in the mid-range, let's pick 5,500 RPM, we have number 8 cylinders at 16.7 to 1 air-fuel ratio. That is scary, scary lean. Really, we would like to see this thing at 12.0. Does that make you happy?
I'm not nearly as concerned about that 17 to 1 number as you are because it's momentary. And nitrous is under so much more pressure than gasoline, you are always going to have a 2 to 3/10 of a second long spike in air-fuel ratio. So it's not a matter of what the number is, it's how long it's there.
Okay, you're right, there's 17 here when you hit the button, but then 16, 16, 16, 15.6, 15.8, that still scares me.
This is obviously an issue. But when you look over here and you see something that's 15 and now it's dropped to 13,
right,
or something that's 14 and dropped to 12, those numbers are acceptable.
I think what we're thinking is that when you have a spike lean, it's because the nitrous oxide gets to the cylinder far faster than the gasoline does.
Yes.
The gasoline's at 6.5 PSI.
Right.
The nitrous is at 900 PSI.
Yeah, so. Exactly.
But it's still got lean holes. I mean, even down here at 6,000 RPM, I mean, 15 to 1 scares me. The rest are like 12. With a plate system, you can't pick one hole to fix.
No, and that's what really bothers me about this. So what we're probably going to end up having to do is give up some power in one or more cylinders to try and correct that number 8 so it doesn't burn up.
It seems to me that our only choices here to fix that 1 or maybe 2 lean cylinders are try and put a big carburetor jet in the right rear to see if we can get more fuel to number 8. I haven't had a lot of success with that, but we could try it. Or globally change the fuel and the whole thing, make it all richer just to save that 1 cylinder, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, those are both solid approaches to try. But the first thing I'd like to do is go take a look at a spark plug. You know, sensors do go bad. Bosch sensors, NTK sensors, they do fail at some point, and particularly with leaded fuel. So what I want to do is go take a look at the spark plug. That's the first thing that sees combustion, and we're going to be able to tell whether it's really as rich or lean as we suspect that it is.
On that same line of thinking, would it be a good idea to swap the sensor on 2 different cylinders and run it again and have a look?
Absolutely.
Okay, so those are what we're gonna do to make sure we don't blow up my LS motor. All right, let's have a look at Mr. Sparkplug. We pulled out this number 8 spark plug to see if it had anything going on, and it looks flawless. If it had spatters of aluminum on it that would have come off the piston, that would be really bad. Instead, we're looking deep on that porcelain, and there is like, what, a 32nd or 16th of an inch tall black ring around the bottom of it, which is perfect. The other thing is you can read the timing requirement or the timing like performance a little bit by looking at where it burns on the ground strap. And if you don't have enough timing, it'll be over here by the tip. If you have too much timing, it'll fold all the way over here to the edge. You want it right there at that bend, and that's where we're at. Anyway, this is all good. What we did, since we found nothing here, is we took 2 of our oxygen sensors and swapped them cylinder to cylinder so that we can go look at another pull and find out if maybe it was the sensor that was giving us that really lean reading on number 8. The number 8 cylinder is still reading lean on our sensor, and so we don't think the sensor's bad because we swapped them cylinder to cylinder, and so we're gonna do something we've never done before. One way to attempt to richen one cylinder in an engine is to change just that jet in the carburetor that's nearby. It's not that effective on a manifold like this. What we're gonna do is go enlarge this hole in the spray bar that's pointing towards that number 8 cylinder and see if we can put more gasoline into that cylinder. Here's our final pull with this thing after we were messing around so hard trying to get that number 8 cylinder rich. He drilled that oversized hole in the spray bar, and honestly, it did nothing. But let's start with the horsepower, and then we'll explain that. This made 772 horsepower and 737 pound-feet of torque. The problem is this tune. We still didn't get that hole any richer.
No, it's, you know, past experience, it's hard to tune a single 4-barrel manifold with an issue in one hole. It's hard to get things diverted to just a single cylinder.
Yeah.
With a tunnel ram, you can poke around right over every cylinder, but with a single 4-barrel, it's tough.
Let's pull up that graph so we can have a look at exactly what happened. This is a little confusing. This is air-fuel ratio in each individual cylinder. Red is before we started all our like extreme tune-up tactics, and black is after. You can see we really couldn't affect the shape of what any one cylinder was doing with this thing.
No, and the spike we're seeing here, that's when the nitrous is activated. We've talked about that, where it goes leaner momentarily for 2 or 3/10 of a second. Then it settles back in. That's also the horsepower spike. It'll make more power there, but not for a long period of time when it's that lean. But this cylinder here, we just, you know, we got maybe a 1/10 or 2 change out of it, but really almost nothing.
Didn't. So, and we know that it's not the sensor. It could be the box that's reading it. We'll maybe find that out when we put the next unit on. By the way, we know it's not this carburetor doing this because we've run this thing on 187,000 dyno pulls. So it's not that. I think the bottom line here is that you cannot pick one cylinder off with a plate, and we just need to move on. All right, we're going to give up on solving that and move on to the perimeter plate system and see if that fixes anything. Changing the plate. At a baseline power of 560 horsepower, we hit the button and turned that into 789.8 horsepower and 750 pound-feet of torque. So that's really good, but we know that nitrous makes power. The story is in the tune-up. Now, this is a air-fuel ratio curve for every cylinder in the engine. Higher is leaner, lower is richer. This spike right here is when we hit the nitrous button. The nitrous gets into the engine before the fuel, it goes lean. So really what we're looking at is down here. We do have one fairly rich hole at about 11.5 or 11.7 to 1, and the leanest that we get is 13.4 to 1. This is safe and good, and the grouping is tighter than what we had with that other plate.
Yeah.
And our tune-up's identical. So we're looking at same jet, same fuel pressure, same ignition timing, same carburetor jetting, and it's just happier with the perimeter plate system. So I guess to conclude, no one's gonna drive around with a plate system at this power level and actually have O2 sensors cylinder to cylinder. And I think the first thing to comment on that is people have used spray bar nitrous plates for millennia. I mean, they've been around for decades.
We used them 40 years ago.
We used them 40 years ago. We use them forever. Everyone's put a zillion laps on them. And in general, you don't kill holes, or if you do, you're looking at spark plugs and you know that that's a risk. So I guess what I'm saying is we saw that one cylinder. The spark plug didn't tell us that it was in any kind of distress. You know, the O2 sensor did, the spark plug didn't.
Right.
40 years ago, you would have looked at that spark plug and gone, I'm golden, and run it, and you would have never had a problem. But we do know now, which is why we end up being happier with the perimeter plate in this application, because I guess the data just makes us feel more warm and fuzzy.
And that's really some tough power to outrun anywhere. You put that on the street, who's gonna run with you?
Yeah, it's pretty good. Man, I love nitrous. We need to test more with nitrous. Oh, you know what we have? I want to do a fogger so that we can individually tune each cylinder.
Yes.
You know what? That's a promise. We will do that on a future episode of Engine Masters.
My smile's a mask, my voice preset, but loneliness is what I get. I text the void, I scan for you, but all I find is static truth. I cry in pixels, screaming code, still hoping someone breaks the mold. Binary tears, they fall unseen in a world that's lost between what is felt and what is fed. I'm alive but just half dead. Between what is felt and what is fed.